So we're up to the canon ending of the series, or the original canon ending.
Ah, sweet.
Which, a lot of, on the Mega Man Network when I was first advertising the event, which has clearly worked swimmingly so far, I pointed out that it's all the main storyline, even though, X5 is technically the end, and there was actually a couple people that were like, what do you mean, that's the end of it? It's like, really? You're on the Mega Man fan site and you're not aware of that? I'm actually surprised. Not, in a judgmental way, just in a way, I didn't realize that people were unaware of that. But yeah, this was originally... I'll just start right out the gate with this, I guess, because it's just these intro sequences. This was originally going to be the end of things. There's a lot of motifing specifically designed for that in this, and it'll be pretty obvious. Yeah, so that. Welcome to X5.
That was the one animated cutscene in this entire game.
It was a scene from the previous... Or no. I'm thinking of how it's done in 6. Ignore me.
Yeah, they did not have the same budget as 4.
I don't know if it was more of a budget or a time thing. It was probably a combination, because I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, X5 got rushed.
Oh, no, that's very obvious, especially in the last stages. But we'll get to that.
There's plenty to talk about here. The thing about this one, though, is, aside from some, overall oddities, I don't really mind it as much as X4. I would actually grade this one higher than 4, just overall. So... And our video locked a little bit, so we're right into this delightful storyline wherein they do this character good mystery justice, and then in just a moment, it'll be a similar, quote-unquote, similar situation, except it's fucking stupid and not subtle, and I hate it.
Where is this guy right now?
So, I actually realized this when I was going through...
Who could be?
Yeah, exactly. It's come on, you're doing this for the new character, and you're not even fucking trying for Sigma. Again, not even gonna make a spoilers joke, just fucking goddammit. So, it occurred to me when I was playing through this for the dozenth time, when I was going through all the practice for this, that's the colony. The reason that this is kind of a plot that makes sense preparation-wise is it's a derelict colony. I'm guessing. I don't think there's anything that outright says it, but right now... the new character is on board the Eurasia, the colony that's central to the whole plot, and he's doing something to kind of steer it towards the planet.
Alright. I thought he was in the ruins of Sky Lagoon or something for some
and reason. That's kind of what I was thinking too, and it's kind of weird because you start to get that feeling in general a lot of the time, because now especially after this one, the whole plotline is Earth is just fucked. Even best case scenario, the Earth is just destroyed. This obviously less so, but in just a moment you'll see that it is. So, this is Aelia.
I like her as a concept, I don't like her execution in this game.
I like Aelia a lot. I like the new cast of characters because they're actually given the opportunity to stick around and kind of develop. And Aelia is the only one that actually gets developed, and that's why I end up liking her. They execute her in this, like you said, very poorly, because this on its own is alright, you know what? It's the first screen of the first level, fine, except this is just, the whole game is just this, and you can't decide whether or not this comes up. Luckily they fix it. They improve on the navigator system in every subsequent game, with the exception of 7. That's the exception to everything, so just don't even fucking worry about it. And this one's cool because it kind of, as a stage, I'm jumping between stuff to the place right now because I need to keep up with myself for once. Does some cool stuff. It's kind of a reference of X1's Central Highway stage, but not just here, look, here it is. It's obviously the same thing. They don't just rip it off, which I'm a fan of.
And I think this is the one time where they make good use of the backgrounds and they actually feels like there's a lot going on back there.
For the first half. You don't really realize it because it's progressing naturally, but since I was staring at stuff for asset creation in this, it gets a little plain pretty quickly. But it's not the worst. Also, I was just kind of showing off there, you can't shoot through walls anymore in this game. Which, there is a reason for it. I'll talk about it when I get that armor. But it's an armor perk later on, which I'm okay with that. Like, I know it's a standby of the series, but it's designed around it, so I don't feel like it suffers from it. There's like one or two situations where it's like, God damn it, I wish I could do this, but it's not really that intrusive, so it's fine. You can also crouch now. I don't know if I've done it yet, but
it's vitally unimportant.
Actually, it comes in handy for kind of decent amount of stuff. It's just, I don't use it super often when I absolutely should.
I
right here.
Remember, like, it only comes up in my memory in this stage and nowhere else.
Yeah, there are times where it's useful. In similar ways, like, you can dash under certain things in the previous games, you can use crouch for that. It's just... I
like how that text box is telling you about that rope sliding thing that you did, but it comes up well before the rope is even on screen.
And also, you can just do a dash jump to clear that gap. Like, it's not required at all. I feel like I've skipped out on some... Oh, the colony, I guess. So, basically, as far as I'm aware... new characters up on the colony kind of directing it towards it. You can kind of gather that from some of the text.
And probably working on other bullshit that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like prep work. It's just, I think it's interesting that it's like, oh, okay, shit, like, it's not even a populated, because they never covered that. It's like, holy shit, we have to evacuate the colony, or like, holy shit, all these people,
Okay.
The Sigma virus affects even... Oh, by the way, spoilers, that's Sigma.
Zero, why weren't you just there to begin with? If your arm's up and you're wounded, why did you teleport in?
You know, that's a good question. That's never occurred to me. Genuinely, I've never thought of that. So
just having to be like, X, look the fuck out. Sigma did some stupid shit.
That's the thing, is they're not implying
that Sigma...
I guess they kind of are, but they're not... And, like, I have a feeling that a lot of the small complaints I have with this game come down to translation problems. Because if X4 was the pinnacle of translation, which, A, I feel like 8 is a little better, and B, it's still X4, then I'm willing to give this one the benefit of the doubt and just assume that a lot more stuff got lost in translation. But, yeah.
Here... You didn't really see it before here, and you won't really see it again until we get to the fortress stages. But don't fucking give us this angled background perspective bullshit if you're just going to have the floor be a 4-color gradient. Why the fuck? Just cut it off! Also, hi Sigma, you don't belong here at all.
Yeah, you always talk about this, and I think this is the best... instance for it, so if you want to talk about the art style thing, go for it.
Fucking... Sure, you can do 32-bit sprites well, I just wish everything stylistically meshed together. Like, Sigma and X and the backgrounds, they look like they're all from completely different fucking games. It just takes me right the hell out of it.
Yeah, like, it took me a while to realize what you were talking about for that, but as soon as I fully understood what you were saying, it's like, Sigma is basically a photorealistic human head. And everybody... You know what I mean, like, in regards to this level of quality. And then, like, X and Zero are, like, anime characters, basically, which is fine. Like, I like that art style. And then, like, the background clouds are, like... They almost remind... Like, they look like they would be in a Final Fantasy game. And I've never even played a Final Fantasy game, so it's like... It is stylistically just, like, there's a lot... I don't like the art of the PlayStation 1 games. I love... The regular character sprites are fine. Like, this one actually has my favorite first form Sigma model. Outright. And I love, like, X sprites, Zero sprites. The new rival character is really cool. All the bosses are awesome. It's just everything else, which, that's a big just, but, you know.
But I mentioned it in the thread. It's like, the PlayStation games all have great ideas, and they try to do really cool things, but in each game, they all fall short in some significant way, whereas the SNES games are a lot more consistent quality-wise.
Yeah, and then again, I would argue that X8 is pretty similar that way too, and it kind of sucks that, like, that's when it found its footing again, and it was the end of it, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, shit, alright. So here's your introduction to all these new characters. Cygnus it won't be explained in any of the games, but Cygnus is the new commander of the Maverick Hunters. Basically, storyline, what happened, and before it even comes up, yes, his name is super similar to Sigma, that's kind of annoying. That's the beginning and end of that thought train, they never really explained that. Cygnus is in place to replace Dr. Kane, who was the leader of the Maverick Hunters up until the Rebel Force incident in the last one, because of all of the stuff that came out of it. In a perfect world where that storyline was actually well written, he was disgraced in, like, oh my god, I let this happen, this is terrible, I'm going to step down and appoint somebody new who's got, like, more fresh thinking, and like an actual new commander for it. So it's like, that's cool, I wish it came up, but it doesn't really need to. It was probably in the manual somewhere, but that's that. Actually,
so one of the text boxes just now was talking about how the Maverick virus is now infecting people.
That doesn't get covered, but they mention it in one of the text boxes a little bit later in this. Is that nothing is fully, and I'm willing to accept this. I like this because it's like super far future plot, and I mean, if we're giving X and Sigma and Zero the benefit of the doubt as characters and stuff, and I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for this too, is basically just everything is integrated with machinery at this point. Including nature, like, they're like, oh my god, even nature isn't really fully free from the Sigma virus.
Right.
And immediately you're like, oh now fucking wait a minute, and then they immediately follow up with like, everything is integrated now, and you look at it and you're like, you know what, you're right, even in like X1, the trees have like cyborg shit going, yeah, so it's like, alright, so, you know, hydroponics, like, just preservation units, just anything could be in there, and so for people, like, maybe prosthetics, pacemakers, things like that, if you want to stretch it, like, it could have just been a bad translation, but it's not impossible to think about.
I mean, like, I'm fine with the virus infecting, like, cybernetics and shit, but the Maverick virus kind of implies that it's turning people Maverick, which would imply it's affecting their brains somehow.
Well, so for that I was gonna also add, after you inevitably brought that up, that it's not unreasonable entirely that it's like, you know, the electromagnetic, like, electrical impulses in the brain, maybe. And I'm assuming that when they say people, or like, you know, Maverick virus, they're just talking about like, okay, it's just having adverse effects now. Like, they don't say that people are going Maverick, it's just like, this is the thing that's happening, also it's fucking with everything. So it's
that's
like,
why they really need to define Maverick virus.
There's that, or just translate it quicker, I don't know. And it's stuff that, like, you can at least justify, which is, it's so stupid that that's easier to justify than the writing in the previous game for certain things, where it's like, oh, well, this and that, as opposed to just like, nope, you're wrong, this is just retarded. So, shifting gears, because I feel like I'm now way behind. We have a time limit. So basically, when you go into a stage, it fixes the timer. If you game over on a stage and hit continue, you will start that stage again and will not remove any extra time. So you can try a stage as many times as you want without penalty. When you beat a boss and come in, that time is locked out. If you quit, like, game over on a stage and then decide to switch to a different one, that will also cycle through time. There's multiple branching endings in this one that, before the next recording session, I'll read up a little bit to make sure that I explain cognitively like a smart person.
We'll do, like, next time for it or something.
Yeah, there'll be some solid explanation of it in the future. The time limit is part of that good ending, bad ending, neutral ending. Like, the multiple ending thing is all time limit based. And that's basically the space colony is now falling to Earth, which you might have read, we didn't. We already know. This part, specifically, listing these ones off, has to do with the cannon repairs, which, again, was explained. Those bosses show up in weakness order. It actually shows you, and it's weird, I don't know if that was intentional or coincidence or not, because the second set, when they're explained later on, don't do that. So, I'm not sure, but anyway, so there's where you would go to fire early. If you collect all the parts, it automatically does it. You could fire now, and if you get a good dice roll, it'll be really hard. You could theoretically shoot the colony down perfectly right away and go right to the end of the game. You could still do all the regular Maverick stages. There'll be special dialogue for it and everything, but you could just be like, I'm just gonna go for it. I don't fucking care.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm down with that.
Yeah. And then that was part equip stuff. So kind of like the Extreme 2 part system, this is basically where that came in originally.
So I can't help but notice that the names are a little off in this one.
Yeah, so every boss in this game technically has 3 names, sort of. There's the original Japanese, the actual translated Japanese, and then the version we got. All the versions that we got, which, again, this is common trivia, so you probably already know, are Guns N' Roses references. And this one I think is fascinating because the Mega Man series is already full of musical references like rock and roll.
Right.
And bass in Japan is blues, and bass and treble, which are even translated as musical things, are gospel and forte, which are also musical things. Just, it goes on and on. And so this one, the head of localization wanted to do something cool for her husband. And was just like, oh, well, I'll just name all these. He loves Guns N' Roses, so let's do that. And normally I'd be angry at that, especially with some current event stuff, whatever, localization, that kind of shit. But it kind of fits the series, so it's almost okay. None of the names are really, like, they're goofy, but they're not the worst that could have happened.
Right.
But, and I kind of want to mention it when it comes up, but since we're talking about it right now, I'll just say it now. One of the bosses, Axel the Red, is a Rose, who's already, hey, Rose, he doesn't use a gun or anything, but the intro of his stage, or like the first screen of his stage, is a bunch of cannons in like a military base, and the fence around the cannons is surrounded by overgrown roses. So it's literally there are Guns N' Roses. And as far as I'm aware, the localization person didn't see that at any point. She just made the decision independent of it, which means there just happened to already be a Guns N' Roses reference in the game. And earlier on, in X3, one of the songs in the stages is also a reference to My Michelle, Guns N' Roses song. So it's just like, it just keeps happening, and it's like all kind of separate instances of it. It happens, and I love it. Also, speaking of music, the stage is my favorite music in the game. There's that whole thing.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's a lot of rapid fire stuff. Well, while we're on it, we're keeping up the boss subtitles. So, Wild Iron Claw, Crescent Grizzly, Grizzly Slash. So all the names are in here now. So what that means is Crescent Grizzly is basically the actual translation of his Japanese name, and the Guns N' Roses name is Grizzly Slash. So I'll give all 3 of those this throughout this. And it sucks because like I don't mind that reference. But the regular translated names in this one are so fucking cool for the most part that it's like, god damn it, like you wasted this on like some of the best sounding ones. I'm so mad, but not. This is an important one. Do you have any notes you want to cover before I talk about this?
I really wish we could see the plot of this game from the point of view of regular Reploids, or people just like, the fucking apocalypse is happening or some bullshit.
More or less.
And you never really get that sense.
You don't even see people. Dr. Kane is the only human that you see in the X games.
It's just, there's a lot of missed opportunities in the X series, and it makes me sad.
So, 2 really important things in this capsule. One is it's explaining that this is now one of 2 armors that you get. So this is the one that'll start off, you get multiples. Because there's multiple armor sets, like this one is the first one, and then you'll get a second one later on. Right here, that's the important thing that I'm going to cover in just a second. You don't get an armor until you collect all 4 of that armor's capsule, and usually you need one to get the other, but there are certain ways around that. So that on its own is interesting, and then you can... Don't worry about it. You can also switch to 0 at any time now, instead of selecting X or 0 at the start, which I kind of missed earlier. I showed it off a little bit. But... this is the thing that confirms that Dr. Light in the capsule is an actual AI that's keeping up with current events, like, just outright.
Because
like,
he's aware of Alia?
Exactly, and he's like, look, she'll be able to help you out with decoding these and fixing it up, which, A, is really important from a Dr. Light standpoint, and that becomes, like, that's the intro to it, but later on it's just like, oh, okay, this is just clearly obviously fucking a thing. It's not even a question anymore. There's no way that was just a mistranslation, it's just canon.
Yeah.
But 2... it also makes Alia an important character because she's the one that's making X's armors now, basically. Like, she's following Dr. Light's instructions, and even though, like, it's basically all handed out to her, that's in place.
Right.
And that kind of follows up with something that I also haven't mentioned yet, is I started with the 4th armor, which is the armor that you finish in X4. Right out the gate. If you start with 0, you can't use the 4th armor. And if you start with X, then 0 can't use the Z-Buster. So much fucking shit that I'm going through, like, rapid fire. God damn it. Okay, so that's a thing. in line with that, just really quick, in X6, I'll start with one of the armors from this one that Aelia repaired, which means it's just like part of her character growth, which means right off the bat they're actually doing that.
Yeah, and I like that continuity between games.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
I really, really like that.
Hey,
This one has a lot of that.
so, 2 fucking things here. First off, in the boss previews that we're going through, all these fuckers were labeled as Maverick, but this fucker isn't Maverick yet.
Yeah. I think that's mostly just game terminology, but they really are saying, like, these are the Mavericks you need to fight, and going into them, none of them are actually Maverick yet, so I don't know if that's a translation problem, or if it's the hunters jumping to conclusions, or if they don't know, or...
Also,
There's a lot of stuff there.
he fucking insinuated that your mission was to kill him, not to get the thing, but part of your mission was explicitly him dead. Like, it's not this, oh, hey, how's it going? Can I get this? Sure. No, he's like, no, you're here to kill me. Better do it. Why? What the fuck, translators? Or original script, depending.
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you could take that in this one, and really quick, just while this is still happening, I appreciate the fact that they actually involve the environment in the boss fights in this one a little bit more,
cool.
because they don't do that very often anymore, and that was a classic thing, so it's nice that it's coming back. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can take that in particular, because that could be bad translation, it could be the original translation being confusing, it could be Grizzly / jumping to conclusions, or like the paranoia of the virus that you know is starting to take him over because he says it and now he's fighting you.
No, it's dead.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of it probably does come down to the translation and like the fact that the game was rushed. But on the other hand, there's so many different ways to interpret it that it kind of becomes like choose your own storyline, which is one of the things that I really like about this one. Here's one of the things I really don't like about this one. I'm so sorry, Alec. Soon I will not trash on you anymore and everything will be fine. Until 7, but again, that's the exception. This is acceptable. She explains the whole, like, you got a new weapon, and it's like, it's X5 out of, like, also the classic series. I know I get weapons, I fucking know. But it's a new navigator system, so fine, you know what? Whatever. She'll do this after every boss. Doesn't matter if you save or don't save or turn the console off or what. Always, every time, she will go through this exact speech, no changes. Which is just retarded, because there's a lot of dialogue here, and I'll button mash through it. She'll also give you other mission breakdown stuff, which is interesting, so it's like, here's the items you got, here's a little bit of backstory on what's going on, here's like the items that you completed or whatever.
Right.
Like this. And those I won't skip, because those are always at least pertinent. And then,
She actually explains...
exactly, like the plot significance of the stuff you got.
This stuff we leave in, the other stuff we run.
Yeah, so it's like a double-edged thing where it's like, I really like that there's more plot, but I don't like how much text dump there is in combination with that. It's like, you're halfway there,